Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Sy Huffer and Friends. This is a podcast designed to help you flourish at life and relationships. I am your host, Sy Huffer, and you can follow along by liking, subscribing, or following us on our Instagram account at Sy Huffer and Friends, or on YouTube at Sy Huffer. And you can subscribe there, or we are on Apple and Spotify. The way the podcast works is I'm your host, and each week we bring in different friends of mine from around the country because I believe I have the best friends in the world, and they help me flourish at life and relationships. And so you hanging out with them will help you flourish as well. What I'm going to introduce today is a brand new type of episode we're going to do once a month. It's called Can I Ask That? As I've been leading this church in Naples, Florida over the last couple of years, I began to realize that there are just a lot of questions people have about faith and about Jesus and the church and what Christians believe. And so what we're going to do is we're going to introduce you to some of my friends from Ozark Christian College. This is my alma mater. This is where I went to Bible college right out of high school, where I met my wife. We have just fond memories and lots of friends still at Ozark. And one of the things that they do, not only do they train men and women for Christian service and become pastors and youth pastors and worship pastors, they offer resources free to the church to help all of us grow in our faith and what it means to be on mission with Jesus and to follow him. And so one of these things are called next level courses. And we're going to be walking over the next 8 months, once a month, through the next level course that Ozark offers called Basic Christian Doctrine. Now, here is how this works, okay? Why is doctrine important? That might be a question that you may be asking as you hear, like, hey, I want you talk about this Made for More Life. I want to follow this podcast because it helps me flourish at life today and relationships today. I don't really care about transubstantiation or premillennial dispensationalism or whatever other theological or Christian term that you're going to bring up that I just don't know how that relates to my life today. Okay, so I want to show you just shortly today is to explain to you why this is so important. Paul, the Apostle Paul, as he was starting these churches, he would raise up these leaders and he would set them to lead and pastor different churches all across the known world. And one of them was a guy named Timothy. Paul discipled Timothy. He raised him up in the faith. I think Paul was like a second dad to Timothy. I think that's how Timothy saw him. That's definitely how Paul saw Timothy, was like a true son of the faith is what he calls him. And Paul writes, he sets up Timothy to be a pastor of a church in Ephesus, this place that has this, that one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. One of them was the temple to Artemis of the Ephesians there in Ephesus. And there's this false god that everyone was worshiping. It was a huge part of the economy there with making statues to this god. You can read about in Acts chapter 19. And Paul stays there for, I think, 3 years. He trains this young guy named Timothy. Okay, you're going to be my pastor here in Ephesus. And then he leaves. And Timothy has to figure out, how do I lead and serve and pastor people here with these false gods all around us, persecution starting to happen from the from Rome. How do I do this? And Paul takes up a pen and a piece of paper and he writes a letter to Timothy called 1 Timothy. And in that letter, he says to him in chapter 4, verse 16, listen to this. Watch your life and doctrine closely. Persevere in them, because if you do, you will save both yourself and your hearers. He says, watch both of these things. Watch your life, the way you live, and watch your doctrine, what you believe and what you teach. These two things, word and deed, ideas and action, thoughts and the way you live. Those two were actually intricately tied together. You have orthodoxy, right teaching. It comes from ortho is correct, and doxy is the teaching word. So you have orthodoxy, right teaching, and then you have orthopraxy, right practice or right living. And orthodoxy, right teaching, always leads to orthopraxy, right living. And if you mess up the orthodoxy, if you mess up the teaching and the truth of what you believe, it's going to mess up how you live. I mean, here's just a few examples of that. Like, for instance, we know how this works. Why do we lift weights, right? Like take this into like the physical health realm. Like, there's a certain way to do the bench press. There's a certain way to do the deadlift. Okay. And if you do it the correct way, if you know the right things about the deadlift and you know they're supposed to stay closer to your feet and you pull it up, it's right alongside your legs all the way up, all the way down, that you don't hunch your back, but you keep it straight. Like all of these things that you learn, all of those are the right teaching. It's orthodoxy. And you know it and you learn it so that when you practice deadlifting, you don't that exercise doesn't hurt you, but it actually helps you. You see, the orthopraxy, right practice, always comes and has to come from right teaching or right doctrine. And the same is true for things about Jesus. Jesus, if you believe that Jesus is just a good teacher, but he's not God in the flesh, God incarnate, which is what orthodoxy teaches, which is what the history of the church has taught about who Jesus is, then if you just believe he's a good teacher, then it changes the way that you view him and his words. There are more suggestions and commands, right? And you put his words right next to other good teachers like Socrates or Confucius or even Nietzsche, right? His words he's just another human being. He's not God in the flesh. It changes the way you listen to him and follow him. And what does it mean for him to be Lord of your life? Well, it's not really Lord of your life. He's the suggester of your life. It's very different than if Jesus is God in the flesh. Another doctrine is that Jesus, did he rise from the dead or not? Did Jesus' physical body actually get up out of the tomb and rise from the dead? Or was it more of Jesus resurrected, the spirit of Jesus, the spirit of love, and the spirit of grace? That spirit of Jesus is what came alive in the disciples. So if you just believe that it's just like the spirit or this idea, not the actual body of Jesus, then Christianity is really more about ideas and feelings, and it's less about flesh and blood here on earth. Like we begin to elevate knowledge over the physical realm. It's like the idea realm versus the physical realm. It's the early Gnosticism, false teaching about it's all about just knowing the right stuff, not doing the right things. And that can lead to really, really bad practice. Another thing, if you believe the end times in the book of Revelation, is all about figuring out when Jesus is going to come back. Like what's the day, what's the hour, what's the date on the calendar, what's the year. Let me figure that out so that I can be prepared when Jesus wreaks havoc on this earth with some weird thing called the rapture or the tribulation. Like these are things that some people believe. And if you're orthodoxy, if you have the wrong beliefs about the end times, it can lead to bad orthopraxy, which is living in fear, hunkering down, not living with generosity, but instead hoarding all of the food and getting ready for a tribulation that might happen so that you can survive this weird tribulation thing that you read about in the Left Behind books. Okay, well, I would say that's not orthodoxy. That's not right teaching about the end times. The end times, the right teaching about the end times is to help us as Christians live with boldness to keep sharing our faith with others and loving people here in this world that need to experience the love of Christ. Doctrine is so important because doctrine is understanding the truth about who Jesus is, what he accomplished, and what he's doing now through the church. John 8, Jesus says it like this: then you will know the truth, or the doctrine, the right teaching, truth about the world, the truth about him, the truth about life. And once you know the truth will set you free. Made for more life, we want you to experience the freedom of in Christ. But you have to know the truth about Jesus in order to experience the freedom of Jesus. And so this is what we're going to do. We're going to do over the next 8 months, we're going to be following along with Ozark Christian College's next level videos. They're all on YouTube. They're free. Okay. You can find them in two places. You can go to occ.edu/resources/next level. And that's their webpage with all of their next level videos are all there. And you can go and find Basic Christian Doctrine. That's the one we're going to be doing together. Or you can go to Ozark's YouTube channel at Ozark Christian College 1942. And you can search Basic Christian Doctrine and find all 8 videos in a playlist that you can watch. And what we're doing is Basic Christian Doctrine. It's an 8-session course on the basic beliefs of Christianity. Starting next week, 1 week from today, which will be October 23rd, I'll be dropping the first episode of me and some friends having some questions about the first session of Basic Christian Doctrine. Okay, so the best way to use this resource is to watch Ozark's video, session 1 on God by Michael DeFazio first. watch that video, and then listen to our podcast as we discuss that video, discuss what he taught. And they're going to bring, and some friends of mine are going to bring some questions to me from his video. Hey, what do you mean by this? Or help me understand this a bit better. And we're going to just basically have a dialogue on session 1 on God by Michael DeFazio. So if you want the most out of that podcast, watch the episode, that's session 1 by Michael DeFazio first, then listen to our podcast, and it will help you understand where the questions are coming from and what we're going to be wrestling through. We're going to do this once a month for the next 8 months. I'll have some other episodes happening. We'll be telling stories about For the One. We'll be interviewing more people about different topics that are relevant to your life and relationships. But this will be something that you're going to see each month. Can I ask that specifically on basic Christian doctrine? So if you want to follow along all that we're doing here at Sy Huffer and Friends to help you flourish at life and relationships, you can do that by liking, following us on Instagram. You can follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel or on Apple and Spotify podcasts. As always, remember this, that you are made for more, so don't settle for anything less.